everybody. Welcome to this episode of Mismatched. So I think we all know someone who keeps dating the same person. Not actually, but the same type of person. Just perhaps a different body. I know I have. Maybe it's the emotionally unavailable one, the fixer-upper, the one who gives us butterflies but somehow leaves us questioning our worth. At some point, you have to wonder, is it bad luck? Is it me? Is it something that goes a little bit deeper? Today's guest believes the answer starts with the relationship that we have with ourselves. Joining me today is Hina Khan, former psychotherapist turned identity-led transformation coach, trusted TV expert, author, and podcast host. For more than 2 decades, she's helped thousands of people understand the psychology behind the choices that they make, the stories they tell themselves, and the identities they unconsciously live by. Mentored by the legendary Bob Proctor, Hina combines psychology, neuroscience, and spirituality to help people stop repeating old patterns and start creating lives and relationships that actually reflect the people they're becoming. Today, we're diving into why your type might not actually be your problem, why women ignore red flags, the science behind self-sabotage in dating, and how to trust yourself after heartbreak. Hina, it's so lovely to have you in studio.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
You have such an impressive resume, and there's so many things that you've discussed in your expertise. For you personally, how has your identity shifted in your life? Because I feel, for me personally, I'm in my 30s.
Yes.
And I every decade has just been so different from the next.
And let me tell you, every decade gets better and better.
That's what they say.
And it's true. It's true. I know it's hard to believe we talked about this before we started, but I will be 57 this year.
Wow. God bless you. You look amazing, number one.
Thank you.
And you've accomplished so much.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm just getting started at the same time. And it does get better and better because you get to know who you are. And as you start to do that, you release things, people that are not serving you anymore. So when it comes to this type of work, identity-led transformation, the idea is that for you to really have a transformation, it's about what I say, who you be, and then your doing comes out of that. So who you're dating, what type of work you're doing, what you tolerate, what your standards are, the stories that you tell yourself. All of that comes from our self-image. And for me, oh my gosh, has my identity ever changed over the years? And thank God, because do I want to be the person I was in my 20s?
I was just going to say, you know what it is? I think transformation is such a loaded term, and it can mean so many different things to different people. Sometimes, yes, I think transformation is like a beautiful thing. To me, it's growth. But some people see transformation as you're becoming someone I don't even know anymore. You know what I mean?
Yes, because sometimes someone's transformation is not convenient for somebody else. And so it's switched as if it's a negative thing. But we are always in movement. We're either growing or we're declining. Mm-hmm. And so that's why even when you look at people in retirement, when somebody does, like, here's what I say is the fountain of youth, if everybody wants to know.
Obviously.
It is having a purpose.
Yes.
And so that's why people in retirement may decline really quickly, because they don't have that thing that gave them purpose, where they felt that they were contributing or doing something meaningful. And so when we are shifting our identities, we want to shift our identities from a future vision, not from the past. Many of us are making our decisions from the past, and the past is determining what is possible for us, or the paradigm, the dominant thought, like, well, at this age, you should be doing this or that or this season of your life. So this work around identity is very important, and more important now than ever, because we have so many voices coming in telling us what we should be doing, or the type of person we should be dating, or where we should be in this portion of our life.
For sure. So in kind of as your identity shifts and transforms through your life, how do you really hone in? It sounds so silly, but like who you are. Yeah. I know that's like a really loaded question as well, but as that self evolves, do you know what I mean?
I do. That's so much more difficult than people think.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we've been so programmed from the external. And even more so now with social media, we can compare ourselves in an instant. We can get feedback in an instant on what we're doing. I was saying this on a show recently that previous generations, like mine, we had the luxury of figuring out who we are in private, right? So we don't necessarily have that luxury anymore, and we're doing it and we're getting feedback from people on what they think about us. So this can be very challenging because the first question that I ask is, what would you love? What would you love if anything is possible? Not what would your family love, not what would your partner love, not what your kid would love, but what would you love? And that can be very challenging because we haven't asked ourselves that question. And sometimes it feels like we're being really selfish to ask that question. So the first thing is you've got to decide, what would you love? What does that look like? And one way in is to think about your goals. So in a year from now, what would you love to create? And what I do with my clients is we create impossible goals. But it's not that the goal is impossible, it's the goal is impossible to your current identity. But to the identity that has the goal, it can naturally hold it. So there may have been a point, I know you've been doing this podcast for a year, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Where years and years ago, this might have felt like a stretch.
Oh, it for sure was an impossible goal. It seemed like there's no way I could have ever done this. It really did feel like that.
Great. So, and it's so good that you chose to do it because to that version of you, it was impossible. It was a different identity that had to emerge for you to be able to do this. But that identity wouldn't need to emerge unless you had a goal to call it forward.
Right. That makes sense. So in determining the goal then, I know again, this is difficult to perhaps answer, but what are the questions you should be asking yourselves to prompt the goals? Because sometimes kind of just having the blank slate of what do I want to do next is quite overwhelming, I think, for a lot of people as well.
Well, you tell me, what had you do this podcast? What was it that was coming up for you?
Yeah, a need.
A need.
Yeah. I was like, I don't feel fulfilled in this part of my job because I mostly, as you know, on TV, short form content is short form. So you don't really get to like the depths of getting to know someone or having a real conversation with somebody or telling the story the way that I like to tell stories in long form. I've always had that issue ever since I was a kid. It was like, too many words in your essay, Nicole. I'm like, I need words to explain myself. But so that need for like a long form conversation is like, okay, like this is where this is the platform to be able to do that. So wrap your head around going there. But that's how I kind of came to this.
So that's beautiful. So for some people, that's exactly what it is. It's almost a dissatisfaction. It's something that may be missing, or it's something that they're feeling called to. But you've got to get quiet enough to listen to it. You've got to, or you feel that need, it keeps coming up repeatedly. Like you're off somewhere, you're like, God, I wish we could have had longer for this conversation. You may have been interviewing someone for TV. And then it's like, wow, that comes up. So you can even think about what comes up repeatedly for you.
Okay.
Where do you lose time in? Do you feel when we're sitting here together, you're sitting with a guest, are you like, oh, wow, that was a long hour, or that was a long 30 minutes? Or does it feel like it's
no, it
so
just
fast?
like goes by so fast.
Another clue to you.
Right.
So what is it that you lose a sense of time in? Because then you are in flow. So these are all things. And sometimes you can ask yourself, what did I love to do when I was younger that I would lose time in? And it's not necessarily that you'll do that exact same thing, but it could be a clue. It could be part of the breadcrumb to lead you to what you would love. And the other thing you could ask is, if you had all of the resources available, what would you love to do? Because sometimes we think about it. So we may think someone may be watching and they're like so inspired by you, Nicole, and they're like, I want to do a podcast as well. But how? How would I get it? Who would I get? How would I get the guests? And that starts to bog them down. They're like, bad idea. Not doing
too much.
It. Too much.
For sure.
So if you can say to yourself, if I was able to do it, I had the how figured out, what would I want to do? So that allows you to stretch your thinking as well. And then once you do that, then the question that I love is, who do I need to be? Who do I need to be able to step into this? And you can just ask yourself what the next step would be.
Wow, that's when you kind of quiet yourself and like ask yourself those questions, it's really interesting to see what comes out of it. And as you said, like throughout the years, it's funny how even though there's more noise around us, as an adult, you get more quiet within yourself to really ask yourself this question, because you can't help but ask, like, what is the meaning of my life? Like, what am I doing with my life? Which is like a hard question, and again, changes and transforms as you get older.
No, I do these morning calls with my clients. This will be the last year that we'll be doing them. We've done them for 6 years. And we were talking about just even thinking about the earth. And I was like, okay, so if even you just drew a circle to represent the earth and then drew another circle around it, it's like, you know, what's outside of the circle of earth? More space. What's outside that other circle? More space. And then when you push things out, you just realize, like, there's just, we're on this planet that is spinning. Like right now, you and I are having a conversation on a planet that is spinning through this universe with solar systems, and neither of us had to do anything for the sun to rise this morning, right? Or the sun to set. And we are in this, and then we think of our goals and we're like, I don't know, maybe it's too big. We're on a planet that is spinning in the middle of a universe. So sometimes I also think of that. And
perspective.
So perspective. So we have these existential crises where it's like, what am I here for?
Yeah.
Like, what is the purpose? And when I work with my clients and we're talking about identity, I want people to create that for themselves. So one of the things we do is we even create a document. And that document actually comes from your judgments that we flip into new truths. And we create this document so that you create who you be. And then you decide who you be, as opposed to the weather deciding who you be or the traffic deciding who you be. So some things in my documents is that I am love. I am the proud present parent to my 2 boys, Yusuf and Imran. They're the most interesting people I know. I create transformation in an instant. People transform in my energy. So this is who I be, and then I come here. But it's not like I'm going to determine what, this podcast will not determine who I be. I determine who I be, and then that is expressed to and through me. And that's the identity work. But that work takes courage, because you've got to create your own stories and standards for yourself, as opposed to allowing others to do it for you.
And that's really tough when there
really,
is so
really
much
tough.
judgment. There are so many opinions. And I think there's a real, I'm speaking for myself, but also for a lot of people that I also talk to, the concept of like, you fake it till you make it. Like there's a lot of lack of confidence that people feel within themselves, because we are surrounded by so much doubt. So how do you solidify that reassurance that I am this person, I am, before you walk out the door every day?
So creating the document is so powerful, because then you start to embody it. And the way that you do it is the way that you did it. So the part of you that does not feel confident, or imposter syndrome, that is actually not an indicator that something is wrong. So if we take up my methodology around identity-led transformation, the version of you that is sitting here right now, that is doing the podcast, that years ago, this version to that version would have felt like an imposter.
Totally.
So because it was to that version
To that
of you.
version.
To this version of you, this is not an imposter. This is who you be. This is natural. Of course you have your own podcast. Of course you've been doing it for a year, having incredible, deep conversations, because that was your desire and it fulfilled to and through you. So it's not that it's wrong. We just understand it's actually natural and normal. So I don't have to fight against it. I just now have to build the person that for who that is normal. So what would be my next step? So you're doing it scared. You're doing it when you don't have all of the answers or the resources. But the confidence is in this. The confidence is, Nicole, you have figured it out before. So that's what we have to use. That's how we use our past to leverage. Many people use their past to actually show them why they can't do something. But if you look at your past, you've been able to figure it out. There were things that you didn't know how you were going to do it, and you figured it out. You got yourself out of situations that weren't that great. You left relationships that were not serving you. So what you can feel confident in is that you will figure it out. So sometimes that's what will help us to start. But feeling like an imposter actually makes complete sense at that time.
It's so interesting, and I'm glad that you brought this up because I wanted to get into this concept of the past educating your current, say, situation or even future, really, of how you make decisions and move forward. Because I'm full disclosure, and this is a very selfish question I'm asking for myself. But sometimes it's really difficult because it's easy to also let, yes, the past is education and you've gone through that, you can do it again, which I have told myself, and which is definitely super helpful in moving with confidence in your life. But also there's the flip side of it where the past sometimes has like trauma, and then you find yourself questioning whether you're listening to your intuition or you're letting your trauma take over in the current place that you're in. I'm speaking like in terms of a relationship specifically. But it's hard to kind of differentiate the two. How do you do that?
It can be difficult. It can be difficult to differentiate the two. So first, we take the learnings from the past. So I'll give you an example in my own life.
Yeah.
I talk about this in my book, and I've talked about it on my podcast. My husband, Paul, we've been married 31 years, and for some of our relationship, he had been drinking, but drinking like binging, and I didn't. I say now, now I'm looking back, I say I didn't know about it, but my gut knew something about it. So as things do, it came to a head, rock bottom moment, and which was also the beautiful moment because he went into recovery, and it's hard for me to even think about that time because it's like I don't even know who that person was. Like, we're so different now. But when we got back together, people would say, but how do you know he's not going to drink again? Or what if you go through this again? And so what I said was, I know how I enabled and was participated in that situation. I'm not blaming myself, but I participated because I knew, Nicole, there were things I knew. And
it's like you tell yourself things to suppress what you knew.
Yeah. I didn't want to face it. Yeah. And so if he gave me an excuse, I was so happy to be like, yep, okay, that's what it is. Yeah. And just kind of gaslight myself because I really didn't want to deal with it. So what was different for me, and this is what I said to people, is that I can't guarantee that. I have no idea. And it would be exhausting 100%. For me to try to now manage him. I'm just going to be going into the exact same thing that we had before. But what I do know is that I will never betray myself again. What I do know is that if something feels off, I will trust myself. So that's why we've got to get to know ourselves so we can know that discernment. But I'm not going to ignore it. So I think what it is, it's taking the past and saying, okay, when did I know something was off and I ignored it? And saying, that is what I will not do again. I can't guarantee how somebody else is going to be, and that goes for business too. Yeah. It goes for teams, it goes for family, for everything, is trusting yourself by getting to know yourself and knowing that the person you won't betray is you.
It sounds so simple, and yet it's so hard because a part of asking yourselves or looking back and kind of at those questions is the accountability that you were there in that moment and saw things happen. And it's like, how did I not really bring this to the surface when I should have?
And that was such a big piece because for me, when we were going, when it all came out, could not be ignored anymore, I would say the biggest work for me was forgiveness, not to Paul, but to myself. That I had to forgive myself for all those times that I knew and I didn't say anything. And the guilt that I felt for that. So, because we had a young boy at the time too. My oldest, he was young. He was a toddler at that time. So that was my work, was that accountability. And that was hard, but so freeing. Freeing once you do it.
I'm so like it's really beautiful, and I thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Because that's a lot of work to be able to do that. How did you work through forgiving yourself? Because people carry that through their entire lives a lot of the time. It's really, really hard to truly feel that and like let things go.
So I did it through compassion and grace, understanding, look, we got married in our 20s and we're just trying to figure it out ourselves. And we were like growing together and knowing that I did what I felt was best at the time. And from that level of awareness, that burying everything under the rug actually felt like the smart move. That felt like survival for me because it was more important for me to put out a picture that we were perfect and everything was fine. But I didn't have the awareness of the hindsight at that time. So the forgiveness was knowing that from where I was, that was the decision that I made, but it's not going to be the decision I would make now. And I forgive myself for that. And in an interesting way, there's kind of nothing to forgive when you think of it from that perspective,
Right.
because I didn't know.
100%.
I didn't know.
You can't do with what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that was it. Grace and compassion. Look, we're on this planet spinning. We're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, just trying to figure it out, right? One step in front of the other, and it's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I always say, I'm like, there's no school for this.
No.
And this is why I love having conversations like this, is because there really is, you don't learn this sort of thing, and there's no course.
No, there's no course. It's interesting because on another show that I was at, we were just talking about the sandwich generation, when you're taking care of your parents and maybe you have young kids, and it's like, there's no playbook. This is the first time that you've been in this situation.
Yeah.
This is the first time, like, I didn't have a playbook for this. I didn't know how to do it. And so, but that's part of the growth. And this is why I say everything is for my growth. So that was another thing that really helps me around any fear of failure or making mistakes, is that even what might seem like a mistake is for my growth. Like, that's just the way it happened. Sometimes I'm like, can we just grow? I want to grow through 5-star resorts. Can we grow through luxury?
Sign me up for that.
I'm just like, I am tired. I don't need that kind of growth.
I know.
And you can't. And ironically, with my clients, we do these beautiful experiences because there actually is growth in allowing yourself to receive or be in beautiful environments, especially when you feel like, I don't know, is this me? So that is something that we do. But I really prefer growing that way.
Oh, me too. Any day, sign me up for that, Hina. Any day, that's my kind of growth.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, most of mine has been on the streets.
Yeah. But you know what? You're
So to
in your
speak.
30s, did you say?
Yeah, 35.
35. Okay. I think when we talked about how it gets better and better, I think that that's what gets better and better, because you're also able to get it quicker.
Totally.
You know it, you've done it. It's been repeated enough that you're aware of it. When you see it coming with the red flag and you're like, no.
There's a parade.
Right. Been there, done that, not interested anymore. And so your bounce back game is quicker, but then you also realize that, yes, you can learn in other ways and you no longer need the lesson to be in that way.
Let's talk about these like repeated lessons and
Yeah.
why sometimes it takes multiple to kind of get there. Because I think it's easy to also feel down and out of like, I keep dating the same mistake over and over again. And what I've told myself in this situation is like, it's because I haven't learned the lesson.
Yeah.
This keeps happening. Like I'm choosing this because it's not happening to me. I'm a participant in this because I haven't clearly like learned the lesson. But how do you kind of stop that pattern, so to speak?
So what I often say is that you don't get what you want, you get how you feel about what you want. You don't get what you want, you get how you feel about what you want. So you can want consciously and very authentically, like a different type of relationship, to be with a different type of person. But if you don't feel worthy of that, you're attracting how you feel about yourself. So the change or the inquiry, the beautiful possibility here is to be is to go there, to get out of the conscious and go into the subconscious. And what do I really feel about what I deserve? And if you're like, I don't know where to start, you can look at the past relationships and say, okay, if these past relationships are an outpicturing of my consciousness or an outpicturing of how I feel about myself, what is it telling me about how I feel about myself? And then from there, you can start to shift it. So many people just stay in the conscious part of this, but that's not what creates the attraction. What you're attracting or who you're attracting is how you feel about yourself. Now, it's not going to change like that. So the next person you meet, you may have done some of this work, the next person you meet may be similar to your exes, but how you respond to them is from the identity that you've created. And that will either it'll be like, okay, that person is not for me. Or they may shift as you're not responding from the old place. So so even with Paul and I often say this version of me would not have married that version of Paul. I would have been like, I am not putting up with this. Like, I see this. Like,
my
this
mom
is
says
done.
that about my dad, and they've been married for 30 years. She says the same thing. I would never marry your father with what I know today.
No. But
they love each other though very much.
They love each other, and this version of Paul would not marry that version of me because he would just be like, "Oh Lord, like you got some healing to do, lady." For this version, but for that version's, we were a match. So. You don't get what you want, you get how you feel about what you want. So look at your exes and what does that tell you about how you feel about yourself? And that will tell you what you have to shift.
Okay, that's very interesting. And I really have done work in that sense because I would say like the common denominator in all of this is me. So,
well, the fact that
what
you
am I
can
doing
say that
is, you gotta ask yourself that question at some point.
At some point. As much as our girlfriends are like,
right,
he's an asshole.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like,
but at some point you're like, and still me. Still me is the common denominator.
100%.
Yeah.
So in a relationship then, and long ones, and at that, whether it be like marriage or not, any sort of partnership, how do you manage to grow not together necessarily, because I don't think any two humans can ever grow together. There's like a give and take of at the pace of which someone grows. But how do you support that and not kind of like, it's because it's at one point it's really easy to outgrow someone and then realize like, oh, I don't want to be with them anymore. But what if that person just needs a little bit more time on their own journey of growth? Like in a partnership, the dynamic of that is really difficult.
Here's one thing that really helped me with that is that I am not responsible for Paul's happiness and he's not responsible for mine. So now, meaning he doesn't have to grow in a certain way to fulfill something for me. So my growth is my responsibility, his is his. But here's what I've learned is as I start, when he was in recovery, he really did a lot of meditation and a lot of spiritual practices as well, which I really learned from. So sometimes it can look like the growth can look different, but you're still growing, but you're just growing differently, or there's different aspects of yourself that you are growing at that time. For some people, it may be health, right? It could be they're going on a fitness journey, but that doesn't mean that your partner has to go on a fitness journey with you, right? And it may be for you, it's spiritual, but that doesn't mean that your partner has to. But what will happen is you will, as we know, influence each other. And so it's giving people personal autonomy for them to have their own growth in their own way, and that they don't have to do something for me to grow. So they can grow at their pace. Now, for Paul and I, what happened was also, and this happens for me with my clients. So many times clients will come to start to work with me. They're having these amazing revelations, awarenesses. They want their partner to too. And I'm like, don't. Leave your partner alone. They didn't sign up for the program.
It's hard, because you feel like I'm putting in all this work to be the best version of me, and you don't seem to give a shit, and you're not doing the same for yourself.
Yeah, or you just don't care. It's not your thing, right? And so I'm like, they did not sign up for the program. But as you change, your environment will change. And with Paul and I, that's what happened. As he started to see me really grow and go for what I wanted and what I desired, it
naturally
rubbed off on him. And then he did the same. But my growth wasn't dependent on him growing. It may have come to a point where we're like, okay, I have outgrown, this doesn't work anymore. We're in two different places. And then I would deal with that. But some people, Nicole, keep themselves small because that's what they're worried about. And when you think about it, you're like, okay, I will keep myself small, not go after my dreams because I'm worried I might outgrow somebody, as opposed to the opposite of I'm going to grow and hope that I inspire this person.
Yeah.
And if I don't, that's okay. We just weren't meant to be here for the long run. It was a season.
100%. That's literally my previous relationship, why it ended along, like there was obviously many issues, but one of them was that I felt like he wanted me to be a small person because it was easier. It would have been easy to deal with. And this is the easy journey. But like, I've never been someone to just do something because it's easy. Like I'm not. And so, you ask those sorts of questions and you have those conversations. And then once, I realized like, I just think we're fundamentally very different people with different values and mindset around things like that and growth, that like, I don't want to hinder myself from that. And I'm not just going to, shrink myself to like do a life that feels easy, because that's where you find comfort in that.
And that takes courage. That takes courage because you're walking away from what you know as well. And there can be comfort in that even for you. Like, okay, well,
for sure.
I know this.
Oh, it would have been way easier to just go along with it.
Yeah.
For sure.
But inside you just couldn't.
Couldn't do
No,
it.
you're
Couldn't
like,
do it.
No.
And I'm glad, like I've learned like through the years to listen to that voice of like, I can't, that there's like that inner panic of this doesn't feel right. I can't do it. But some people also have difficulty really listening to that, and they just lean in, and then they'll realize after the fact that they're unhappy, or years will go by and I regret all of this. How do you look inwards in moments like that and really reflect on what you want, not because there's time, that it's like I invested so much time in this, or I invested so much money in this, but all of those things don't matter if you're not okay.
100%. And I call it, especially when people say, I've invested so much time or money in this. And so it's like, okay, so you're going to just keep punishing yourself or keep doing it because of that. And so many people do. I just call it life's tuition.
Nah, it's cute. So I like that.
Yeah, that's how much it costs for me to learn that lesson. Okay, so life's tuition was like 5 years with that person, whatever it was, 20 years, 30 years, 2 years, 3 months. Or life's tuition was, I invested in that program and it didn't give me exactly what I thought it would. So that was like, $5,000 of life's tuition.
Yeah.
That's what I chalk it up to.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's like a nice digestible kind of lesson for self. You know?
And we all are like doling out life's tuition at times,
we are.
Right?
It's the most expensive school for sure.
A very expensive school. But, and that's why when we learn the lesson, we can graduate. We're like, okay, that is complete.
Yeah.
I've graduated from that now. But we're always expanding. There's no end to consciousness, just like there isn't in space. Like space, there's more space, more space. Mm-hmm. So there's always going to be lessons. And I don't think we're going to, reach a time where you're like, okay, I've learned every single thing. Like that's just because there's always more. That's the infinite. That's the infinite game that we're playing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just taking one thing at a time.
It's taking one thing at a time. Yeah.
Now, once you've graduated and say learned the lesson, and you're moving into a place of kind of maybe a more healthy state, like mind, body, soul kind of thing with your relationships, what sometimes people also don't know how to receive that because it's new and it feels really good. And sometimes your body kind of goes into almost like a state of shock. And then there's like a spiral that happens because you're like, whoa, like I don't deserve this and I can't handle this, or this is too good to be true. but really like it's good that you deserve. How do you kind of work through this self-sabotage that I think a lot of people do because they don't know how to kind of reset their nervous system?
So what you're talking about is that we hit a set point of how much good we can have. And so when we do that, we go and we create chaos or some disruption in our life to take us back to that set point that we have. So we were just actually talking about this on my call this morning about how we've got to be able to, what's challenging is to acclimatize to good and things being good, and it gets better and better and better. That is what is challenging.
Isn't that so sad?
So sad.
I hate even bringing this up because it's so depressing and sad because people don't know how to handle it.
Well, and we haven't been taught. So, like you said, you just used a phrase too about it's too good to be true. So that's a phrase that's very common. It's too good to be true. The other shoe is going to drop. Bad things happen in threes. Don't count your eggs before they hatch, or chickens, or something like that.
All these things.
All of these things saying that good doesn't last. And so we've been conditioned that way to look for, oh my gosh, when is this going to fall, or when's that crisis going to hit?
Totally.
So then we create it. So what we want to do is get used to and start to acclimatize to things can go well and it can get better and better. That is what is challenging for people because we've never been taught that.
Why did all those sayings exist in
Exactly.
the first place?
Exactly.
Why did we do that to ourselves?
Yeah. And so when things start to go well, we're like, oh my gosh, okay. Or you've got to be able to relax when things are going well in the relationship. And that's usually when we will create something unconsciously to take us back to some discontentment because we are used to that. We're not used to it going well. So we'll pick a fight or we'll start something. For a time, it can also feel like it's boring, but it's actually not. It's just that you're used to a certain level of drama or chaos, and there is something for you to do in that. What is there for you to do when things are just going well?
Yeah.
When you love and you trust the person, when you're just receiving, when there's no drama in it, that can feel unsettling. It is just like how rest for many people feels stressful.
Totally. I am through and through that person. Because sitting doing nothing is very uncomfortable.
Yes. White space in your calendar can feel alarming.
Yes. Right?
And it was funny. You should have just been on the morning call because this morning we were talking to the call. You can actually come tomorrow. We're opening them up for everybody because we were talking about this where it was like, and I had to say, and so we were talking about white space and creating white space in your calendar. But I was like, look, you people, my clients, because they're like you, they're high performers. I'm like, I just have to be careful with you because now you're going to want to nail it. I'm going to nail this white space thing and it becomes another project. And so we've got to be careful of that. But rest can feel stressful. So even a relationship that doesn't have drama that's going well can actually feel like something is wrong. So that's the part that you've got to be able to bear and be with is the receiving, and you got to breathe through it. Like, actually, this is safe. It is safe to be in something that is healthy, where I am seen and I am loved and I love this person and I don't have to try to manage or control them. They don't have to try to manage or control me. This is safe. That's the rewiring that you're doing.
That's so hard. It is so
100%.
hard. But it's like acknowledging the uncomfortability in those moments of whether that be the white space or, the happy, safe feeling that you have in a relationship, and telling yourself that this is okay, this is safe, lean in. Yeah. That's what I've been working through things like that. And I'm just like, just sit with it, lean in, stop pushing and it's literally like a bodily reaction sometimes that you have of like resistance. And so instead of kind of pushing away, I've been trying to lean more inwards to settle, you know?
Surrender.
Yes.
Yeah.
Surrendering.
That's what you're talking about. Yeah. And that's what you've got to do. Force negates. And so it's really stepping into your power, and surrender is part of that.
When you let, people that you're working with, as you said, create the white space, surrender, be at peace with this, it's safe. Traditionally, like, people are uncomfortable. Like, it takes time to also really believe that. It's one thing, I think, to say it. I feel safe. I am beautiful. I am strong. I am this, all the affirmations, all the things. But how do you, or when maybe, do you really start believing it?
It's such a great question, especially where there's so much out there around creating transformation through that methodology. And that really does help. Affirmations and visualization, all of that can help. But what I do is the identity-led transformation. So that can be, so we can say all of that, but we're saying it on the current concept of ourselves. So we're saying, I am beautiful, or I am worthy. And then part of us is like, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? Because we don't get what we want. We get how we feel about what we want. And how we feel is that's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So what in the identity space, what we're doing is we're actually taking the piece that thinks it's bullshit, and we're creating from something new from that. Like, so we look at the judgments that you have that are from your 30 years on this planet, and we're taking that and shifting that. So we're not just using broad affirmations. So when you start to shift that, then your doing comes from that way of being. But it's like, if I had an espresso cup, and that espresso cup was your self-image, your identity, the stories, the standards that you have, and you've got this big dream, and that big dream is like in a larger mug, and you pour that into the espresso cup. The espresso cup cannot hold it.
Right.
The vessel cannot hold it. So what we have to do is enlarge the vessel. We have to enlarge you to be able to then hold the bigger dreams, hold what it is that you desire, hold that you are beautiful, hold that you are worthy. But many times people are in that espresso cup self-image with a grande goal, and that's at odds with each other. It simply can't hold it. You've got to have the larger cup to be able to hold the larger vision. And that comes from working on your identity, which is really looking at the judgments that you have and then recreating from that space. But the beautiful thing is, and you're going to wobble, you're going to go in and out. We all do that. But over time, you'll spend more time in the new space and making decisions from that, because your doing comes from who you're being. And then the outer world, at first it's like planting a seed. We don't see what's happening underground, but the roots are taking, they're strengthening, and they're taking shape, and they're forming. That's what the identity work is. It's all that stuff that nobody sees, and it's unsexy. It's like the plumbing, the electrical. It's the most boring, worst part of the renovation.
Yeah.
Right? But you need
But if that's not done, then...
But if that's not done, you can't have the beautiful appliances, the beauty of it, because it's just not going to be able to function. So you've got to do that inner work, that unsexy stuff, but then it holds, and it creates the foundation to hold that bigger vision that you have. And affirmations, visualization, that can all be part of it. But if we're not changing at the root, it's just putting it over top, something that is not stable to hold it. Yeah.
Now, it's interesting, as we're having this conversation today, we're talking about like growing. And to me, growing is like with age, as you get older, you're like growing and transforming. But how do you kind of set how do you set the landscape for kids to be able to do that sort of thing with that education and that mindset? Because as I'm sure you know, speaking from being a mother, but also, yourself, every generation, you want to do better than the next, and you want to let your kids know the things that you know now. How do you instill that sooner rather than later?
I know. My God, if I could, if the kids would listen to me.
Well, and that's the thing. Nobody really does until you like go through life and you learn it that way. But
I think for me, my belief and what I do, I often say it's like spirituality and identity. So I have a spiritual component to my work. Everything is for our growth, including the kids that we have, that chose us and that we chose them. And so my boys are now 16 and 18.
okay.
I find this has probably been the most challenging for me on my heart than any other age.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because they are now making their own decisions. And I know that we poured into them and did the best that we could with what we had at the time. And then you've got to just trust. But I also know that they've also come to this earth school for their own growth. And that may look like some struggle. And to be there and to hold myself back, because like
difficult.
You said, it's so
For sure.
difficult.
For
it is
sure.
so difficult of wanting to control them. So whenever we're in uncertainty, what do we want to do? We want to control something.
Yep.
So I might be in uncertainty in something else, and I just want to control the kids in some way. And but to be able to know that they've got to figure it out, and to that point of using the past, if I look at my past, I figured it out. Like somehow, maybe it wasn't until, I later, and hopefully for them it'll be earlier, because they've picked up some things through osmosis and being in our proximity, and they know that they are loved and we believe in them. So now that's the part that I find so hard, Nicole, is the backing off now, because you can just you can see something because of my experience.
For sure.
But they've got to go through it. And it reminds me of, in our backyard, there was this little bird that was struggling to fly, but the mama and papa bird were above. And anytime we kind of came close, they would swoop down to get us out of the way. So what they were doing was they knew the baby had to learn how to fly. We see that, and I want to pick up the bird and
help
but that would not help it out in the world. It's got to be able to deal with resistance, to be able to learn how to fly. And that's what the kids have to do. They've got to figure it out. So it's hard.
You know what? My mom still says to this day, and I tell her, I'm like, you got to let me fail. And
Oh my
it's
gosh.
really hard, like
It
stepping back and watching and letting people, learn sometimes the hard way. But yeah, I think as a parent, it's important to do that, because that's how your kids are going to develop their own identity and self-worth and confidence, knowing that they're then going to use phrases like, oh, I've been through this before, or I know how to handle this because of this. Like, everybody kind of needs that in retrospect.
I think what had to be so hard for your mom, I just need to talk to your mom. I feel like we'd get along really well.
I feel like you would very much so.
Yeah. But I feel like, because I haven't been through this part yet of the boys being in a relationship.
Like heartbreak.
And heartbreak.
Oh, yeah.
And like that piece of it, or knowing, or as the parent thinking maybe that's not the right person, or seeing how they're treating your, son or daughter. I don't know. Everything I learned might go out the window. I just might get I may get back to the streets. Like, no. I don't know, Nicole. We'll have to have another conversation.
It's tough. And I think every parent can understand that. And I mean, my parents will tell you, like, they have mourned relationships like I have mourned, because my mom says,
right.
You like, she's like, I'm not I hurt deeper when you hurt. Like as a parent, that's just how you feel.
Yes.
Because there's so much love there. So when you see your child hurting, that's like immediately you feel that so intensely. And I was actually just speaking to someone the other day whose son got divorced. And I had asked the parent, I said, did you know that she wasn't the one? And she was like, yeah, I knew right away. And I was like, well, did you tell your son that you thought that? And she was like, oh no. I'm like, really?
God bless her, she has restraint. God bless her, she has restraint.
But how? She's like, no, at the wedding, I watched it all and I thought, this is not going to work. I'm like, you're kidding. Wow. And she had said, she was like, because I knew if I told him, don't marry her, he was going to do it anyway. And I would lose my son.
Yes.
And if I went along with it, the same outcome could also potentially happen. Like if it's going to fail and whatever will be, like he'll be okay.
Yes.
And so it's really hard to ask yourself those questions as a parent.
It's hard to like that restraint, and it's very, very challenging. Even with everything that I know and all the work, we're still having this human experience. But I'm grateful for the awareness that I have. I could not imagine. And you have a
deeper sense of awareness than many. So
right?
I think your sons are very lucky.
Well, can we cut that into a clip? Can I just have a look? Did you hear that, boys?
They are. I'll tell them. I'll remind them, okay? It's true because a lot of people and parents don't. But hopefully, again, having conversations like this will help.
Yeah.
So, Hina, you have so much going on and you do so much. Please just tell everybody also what services you have, what's going on in your life, where people can follow you and learn from you.
Thank you. Nicole, tell me, when is this airing, do you think?
This is going to air in a couple weeks.
Okay. So I'll do that. Okay.
Thank you.
So this will air in a couple of weeks. So, okay. Perfect. Because there's some things that we're not going to be doing and just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay. We do have a lot going on. And, as we talked about identity and transformation, there have been programs that I've been offering for years now that this will be the last year I'm doing them.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Why?
I know,
but
Nicole.
Also get it in now.
Yes, get in now. So one of the things I've spoken about or mentioned are the morning calls. So that will end this year. We've been doing them for about 6.5 years, and they've really been the heartbeat of my community. We've also got other programs as well, but they are happening right now, and you can absolutely join for the last year. And I always think Instagram is best, which is @CoachWithHina, because that's where you can find everything that we're offering. We've got some live events coming up in October in Toronto called Rise at the Ritz, which is a beautiful full-day event, and that is in conjunction with Baby Love, which is a charity that I love. And so that is something where people, if they want an experience in person, which is really, really great. Right now, we're 50% sold out, so grab your tickets for that. And then in 2027, we'll be offering some new programming that we haven't announced yet that we're sorting out. But all of this is me living the work, right?
Yeah.
It's like I had said, I feel like I'm just getting started, and it's also knowing whether it's in relationships, or your work, it's when things complete for something new to emerge. And so I'm excited to be working with people for the rest of this year in these current containers, and then in 2027.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
Tell everybody about your podcast as well.
Yeah. So my podcast is called Possibilities with Hina Khan, and I do solo episodes, and where I just speak about maybe a certain topic. Sometimes I speak about things that have happened to me and how I use the material that I teach in my own life. And then we've got guests on as well. We've got many female founders, and we talk about the identity that it took for them to build their businesses. And it's been a real love, and I think we've got about 6 seasons right now, so you can binge on it.
That's incredible, and it's really cool also, again, to see all the people that have come on and had open discussions. Like huge congratulations.
Thank you.
And also, you're an author.
I'm an author
and
too.
Your book is available online.
Yes.
Are you going to write more books? Because I think you should.
Thank you, Nicole. I am. I think we're planning on a second book coming out at some point in 2027.
Nice.
And the first book, which is a bestseller, is called A Return to You, because that's what it really is all about. It's like, and that's why, like, that is the piece about getting older, is that getting older is actually coming back to you. You know, when you let go of all of the expectations or what people think and what you should be doing, and you come back to you. And so that's what that book is about.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And what's the next book going to be about?
The next book will be around the same themes of identity and transformation. And it's we're seeing what it's going to be about right now as it's being created.
That's really exciting. And again, it's like, I know this is or as an author, how you're writing it now is very different from when you wrote your first book. So that's also like you living your story and your teachings. So very cool. Thank you so much for sharing and for your time today. This was so fun.
So fun. The best part of my day.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
And the best part of the start of the week.
Yes.
And it's funny. I know earlier in the conversation we were saying how, you know, when time goes really fast, it's like that's when you know you're doing something right. This was like the epitome of that, of just like sitting in your presence and having this conversation. So thank you for making the time go by, you know, so fast, but also like I enjoyed every second of this. So thank you.
Oh, me too. Thank you.